punishment, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we have it in us, but we just got to bring it out. That's
Yeah.
what I feel. Yeah. So
So with you kind of learning more about your culture
mm,
and how what it's like there, what do you think like you would have lost the connection to that?
mm,
When did you start feeling like you lost the connection? I think for me is when I went to high school and started hanging out with different people. I wasn't hanging out with people that I was growing up with in Richmond who were from where I was from. So I was
yeah.
hanging out with other people, white people,
Mm,
Asians, Europeans, just all types of different types of people.
right.
And then I think slowly I kind of went away from my culture.
Mm,
And then I think after high school, that's when I was lost completely.
yeah. Yeah.
When did you start to feel like I'm lost, and when did you kind of realize that I don't know where I am?
That's when I started when I was doing videos, and then I started going out.
Yeah.
You know, started heading out to the clubs.
And what year were you?
Party.
How old were you then?
I was probably the first time I went out clubbing was 17,
Yeah.
and after that I got so addicted to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, they're going out, and then I started to not know myself anymore, and not even just like I've lost my identity. I've lost who I am. You know, um, and even though loving what I still do, that kind of protected me
Yeah.
from completely losing myself. You know,
Yeah.
so having to keep going on that lifestyle, I started to realize this is not who I am. You know,
Yeah.
like this is not really me or how I was raised or how I
Yeah.
was,
Okay.
you know.
How long after did you realize that? When did that? Was it 3 years ago that thought started coming in?
I mean, it kicked in there and here
Yeah. Yeah.
when I was out, partying, you know, drinking, all that. I was out, and it kicked in, but it didn't fully kick in because I was like, I'm too comfortable in this position.
Yeah.
So I was like, it is what it is, you
Yeah.
know. But then it makes you realize, when are you gonna make the change? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When are you, you know? And it's cool to do all that stuff. I'm not saying it's not cool to do it. You know, like if you're about that lifestyle, that's cool, and if you do it, cool. But for me personally, I started to realize I was losing myself, and then that's when mental health kicked in. You know,
Yeah.
depression, you know, and anxiety, and all these stuff started to kick in because I was so used to and comfortable to the positions that I was in that I didn't like. And this is speaking upon myself. I don't know much about other people.
Yeah.
But then I started to look at, okay, I need to look at who I really am. And that's knowing that I came from a place
Yeah.
where it's highly, you know, about community, about culture, about history. It's about that means a lot to me, you know?
Yeah.
And not knowing that, because I feel like I was so westernized by things and I was distracted by things, that made it seem like for me, I didn't know myself, you know?
Yeah.
And then you start to kind of, even when you go to, and this is one thing I had a problem with, I realized a lot. Even when I went to like special occasions where they'd have weddings or ceremonies or
Like family.
family
Yeah.
things, you'd see how it's like with those people who really come from back home and they hold that culture. You see how different it is
Yeah.
compared to how it is outside, and then it's like you feel like you don't know what to do because that's how they, you know, if they're speaking the language continuously or if they're talking about something and you don't understand
Yeah.
what that is, and you're trying to connect or be involved in, so it's hard. It becomes hard because
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know much about my country. I don't know much about, like, these people know that.
Yeah.
How am I not, you know? But that's when it starts to really kick in as well. When
Yeah.
I couldn't even say, you know, if they were speaking Arabic fully, I couldn't connect to that.
Yeah.
I understood, but I didn't know how to respond, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How does it feel now, kind of getting back into it and you knowing that you're trying to learn it? You know, you're not there yet. You don't know a lot about it yet, but you're trying. How does that feel? How's that journey so far?
It feels good because what's meant to be will be,
Yeah.
you know? And then over time, you know, it all depends on you.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, I speak back to us now. Speak to my family back home. You
That's
know?
cool.
Like, I'd be like calling them, "Hey, how you been?" Just quick conversations, and that's slowly growing itself.
Yeah.
But it just it's also still hard, you know, because you think as well. I don't know. There's a big questions. There's still questions in my mind that I still go through, and I'm just trying to develop and find out what they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nah, I
So
like that.
yeah,
That's dope, man.
yeah,
It's cool because like I think a lot of people are in that position right now who are really like, look, I don't know if this is what I'm meant to be doing or I'm just doing it because everyone else is doing it, but I feel like I've lost my identity. You know, everyone goes through that. I'm
exactly.
I'm pretty sure at one stage people go through that, especially after high school when you're meeting new people and new friends and having to fit in and all that and just realizing that this is not me anymore. So it's so cool that because I've done that. That's what I'm doing right now. You know,
Right,
me having this project is me getting sick of not knowing where I was from. You know, I'm going like, all right, I need to go all the way back. And another thing as well is, you know, as sad as it sounds, I think at one point I was running away from my culture. You know, I think I wasn't sure. I don't think it was I don't think it's out of embarrassment, but I just didn't know anything. So the only way to deal with it was run away and try to be another culture. I just claimed that I was Australian, you know, and it just didn't work out because I wasn't.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I realized that the longer I ran away from it, the
more pain it
the
causes.
more pain it caused, and I just
Yeah.
couldn't run away from it. I couldn't be someone else. Like it just couldn't happen. So I just sat down with myself and I accepted the fact that that was that, and I was like, well, you're just forever who you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I kind of just started running back towards where I was from, and
Right.
this is what's happened, and I've enjoyed it. It's been
Yeah.
the best life-changing experience I've ever had. So to come to that conclusion and to sit down and to talk to you about stuff like that and to know that you've gone through the same thing, it makes me so happy, and it makes me, you know, more encouraged to do and have more conversations like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even the youngers.
Yeah.
The young ones. You know, especially being born. If you're born.
Yeah,
here,
that's another thing.
It's harder. It's harder on them.
Yeah.
And then it's like we're the middle ground.
Yeah.
We are the middle ground. You've got the people that already know about their history and they know their past and they know, you know, their culture and stuff. And then you got the people who are like us, where we're like, okay, we need to go back and learn about it.
Yeah.
And then you got the people who don't know nothing at all.
Yeah.
So we're the middle ground, and it's like, as first generation, we have to educate those who are younger than us.
Yeah.
We have to let them know, hey, like this is not what it is. You
Yeah.
know, like do not live for that lifestyle that you think that's glamorous or whatever it is that you think, because you need to know where you're from before. If you know, if you know, like if you know your history, you know where you're from, you know who you are.
Yeah.
And nobody could tell you anything.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty in it, you know. So
And you know what's so fascinating that you said that is it's important for us, like you were saying, to go and learn our culture, because our siblings, my siblings that are born here, you know, they don't know that. So if we fail to teach them, it's our fault that they, you know, it's like, well, I didn't know anything about it. You were the ones who had a bit of knowledge about it. You didn't share that knowledge to me or to us.
yeah.
So I think that's another thing that really inspired me to do this project was, you know, realizing that my younger siblings, my younger brother who was 15, has no knowledge on this. And I don't blame them for getting into all these, you know, trouble and all that, because they're just really lost. They're trying to fit in a culture where, you know, it's not them. They're not really accepted.
It's not
You
built
know,
for them.
it's not built for them either.
Yeah.
And they can't run back home because they're not from there. They don't know anything from there. So it's good that, you know, these conversations, I hope, would resonate with someone. And it's definitely our responsibility to
Exactly.
kind of sit down with them and be like, hey, you know, I know you don't know much about what it was like back home, but look, this is a story that was actually fun. It was cool. It's cool to talk about your people. It's cool to speak your language.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, for a long time, I remember I did Arabic classes as well at one point when I was, you know, I think around his age, 15. But I was just like, man, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to learn. I don't need to learn Arabic. I'm speaking English. This is Australia. Just out of ignorance. But then, yeah, I just was like, I don't want to learn Arabic. And I regret that. I wish I could speak Arabic. You know, it would be amazing to be bilingual.
got time,
You know, I still got time, definitely.
Yeah.
But then just to have that knowledge earlier would have been amazing.
Yeah.
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 So I think it's important, like what you're doing. It's good because you will pass down these, these knowledge that you have to someone that wouldn't really need it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also for the mental health side.
For sure.
You
Yeah.
know, so we don't have to go through those traumas.
Yeah.
You know, of not knowing where you're from.
Yeah.
You know,
How did you deal with it, like, mentally? Were you like,
mentally, like, it's hard because it's like, is this the lifestyle you want to live?
yeah?
Not knowing where you're from, you know, and then adapting to the Western world.
You know what it feels like? It feels like you don't go too deep to the point where, like, it caused severe depression for you.
Yeah.
So I think what you did was you kind of was like, you know what, that's not for me, and you kind of pulled yourself away out of it.
Yeah.
Before it went too deep, before you got too deep.
It's still fighting it there and here.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it
yeah.
comes in and out because you think this is a world of survival, you know,
Yeah.
and it's how the system works, and you got to fight the system and all this, but it's also you got to fight yourself.
Yeah.
You got to know about. Yeah, so for some reason, I don't know. For some reason, I was just like, I'm not accepting that. I'm
Yeah.
not letting that happen. You know, I gotta, you know, teach myself that. You know, I gotta be aware and be conscious, and you know, not put myself in positions where I'm like, you know, this is happening. Like, you know, somebody was saying the other day, and I was watching this on a video on YouTube. He was talking about moving to back home from America. And he said, you know why I moved back to Africa? And he was an African American brother. He's like, the only reason I moved back to Africa because there's no blood on the soil.
Yeah.
So he was like, there was nobody that I could go back home and not feel threatened. You know,
Yeah.
not feel threatened by my government, by my police officer, by my community.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuck to me as well. I'm like, if I want my kids to grow up in a, you know, in the mindset of knowing where they're from, they'll know where to go back home.
Yeah.
You know, if they feel threatened, they'll know where to go back home.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing that you think that, because that's one thing that I think a lot of people, especially if they don't have anyone else to teach them the actual, you know, where they're from, because they were too busy getting trapped into this culture as well. You know, that's, you know, I want to learn my culture. I want to be able to know that I could go back home.
Exactly.
Even though I grew up here, I want to be able to know, hey, you know, ask my mom about family that I have back home, or family that I even have, you know, other places around the world that I could eventually go to and feel the connection,
The
you know.
connection, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is as well. This is not our home. You know,
Yeah.
this is our brothers' homes.
Yeah.
You know, the indigenous.
Yeah.
This is their homes. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
So we can't learn to adapt to the Western society because that also seems like we're taking over.
Yeah.
And if you think of it in a different perspective, it's like, oh, you're adapting to what they're allowing to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, no, we're not about that. We know where we're from.
Yeah.
You know, we're brothers like you. We weren't allowed that for, you know, we weren't allowed that for you to feel uncomfortably enough or whatever it is, you
Yeah.
know, because I'm from a place that I know where I'm from, and this is my teachings, and this is, you know, because we know that.